Anyone who believes in indefinite growth on a physically finite planet is either mad or an economist.
We don't want to focus politics on a notion that involves the rejection of principles around which a large majority of our fellow citizens organize their lives.
We are not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think.
So I think it's really easy now to see the world and see a dark place. It's easy to look at business with a capital B, and see the harm that commercial activity does in the world. And I think in many ways, as a society and as a global community, we've lost the connection to how what we consume in our lives is made and produced. The recent collapse of the garment factory in Bangladesh, I think, is an example of that, a tragic example where over 1,000 people died making the clothing that many of us wear on a day-to-day basis. It's actually really easy to be pessimistic, but if we're pessimistic, I think we lose the ability to change. So I prefer to be optimistic. So one of the people I look to for inspiration is the economist E.F. Schumacher, who you see here. Schumacher's writing really gives me hope. And if you haven't read Small is Beautiful, and many people have not, you should definitely pick it up. So in the book, you see a quote here from Schumacher, who talked about the way we experience the world and how we process ideas and how that affects our view of the world. I think to build a better world, we have to first create a better mindset and a different point of view and think more about the possibilities in the world rather than the limitations, so that we can work together to create the world that we want to create. Schumacher really pioneered the idea of people-centered economics. Some people call it Buddhist economics. This human-centered view of economics is really in stark opposition to some of the economics that you see today in the world, which are very dehumanizing around sort of the industrialized economy. But I think the interesting thing about Schumacher is that he wasn't looking backwards. He didn't say that we needed to go back to a different time. He talks, as you see in the quote here, about the conscious utilization of that technology to fight against misery and human degradation. And I think that's what really excites me. So we at Etsy really believe in the power of business to create social good based on the types of principles that Schumacher outlined. And I think this way of thinking is what's creating this golden age of business that Schumacher prefigured in Small is Beautiful, where business is much more personal, it's human-centered, and I think the forces of the world are really realigning to make the world a better place. When I look at Etsy, and here you see a set of products that are sold on Etsy, these dolls holding hands, which are quite adorable. When you look at what's happening on Etsy, we see that the very nature of work is changing, and the relationship that people have to work is changing. And we're moving into a new world where you can spend time with the people that you care about, you can focus on quality of life, and making money and making a living can all be connected in a new way of doing business. So I see this as really being the early stages of rehumanized work. And there's a new industrial revolution that you see on platforms like Etsy that's really bringing people back to the forefront. What's really happening is we're recognizing that work is a core aspect of the human experience, and that when you join work to other key parts of the human experience, things like love of your family and your friends, connection, the balance of work and play, raising children, we can achieve our fullest potential rather than segregating those things. So I think, again, Schumacher's vision of this human-centered economy, economics as if people mattered, is actually being realized today. We want to build a business that has broader impact than just what you see on Etsy, and I think this is the seed for something much larger. So we've been working with our teams around the world to look at how we can leverage a platform like Etsy to help address even bigger systemic challenges. So here you see, in August of last year, a tweet from Larry Morrissey, who's the mayor of Rockford, Illinois, which is a city of a couple 100,000 people, which is just outside of Chicago. What Mayor Morrissey was sending to me, and I'd never met Mayor Morrissey before, this is my first interaction with him, was a message saying, we want an Etsy economy in our city. As I talked to the mayor and I learned more about Rockford, I was really humbled by the mayor's vision and his desire to work with us. To give you a sense of where Rockford is economically, Forbes magazine in the US named Rockford the #3 most miserable city in the United States. I was really heartened that the mayor would reach out to Etsy and think of this Etsy economy as a way to deal with that reputation and the actual real needs. You'll see just below this, and this is the power of business and new platforms on the internet, you'll see that I responded to Mayor Morrissey and asked him to send me a direct message on Twitter. But I think in an even more remarkable turn of events, Carrie McDonald, who is the head of the Rockford, Illinois team, these are one of the locally organized teams, responded and said that she wanted to help. And so as I talked to Carrie and I talked to the mayor later on, they were literally living in the same community, and the mayor was reaching out to talk to us about the Etsy economy, but they had never met each other. So this global platform based in Brooklyn, New York, using a platform, Twitter, based in San Francisco, connected to people in their own communities to begin addressing economic problems in a new and exciting way. So when I think about Etsy and I think about what you see here, Etsy is really a platform to leverage human capital that is already existing in places like Rockford and around the world. This isn't just an online community. This is a community in the sense of the word, the larger sense of human community. These are real people living in a place together. We're working with those, and we're trying to find ways, other ways to turn our values and mission into action, like what you see in Rockford. In May of last year, Etsy became a certified B Corp. And in that process, we signed a document that is called the Declaration of Interdependence, not independence, but interdependence. I think it provides a really beautiful vision of what it means to build a responsible company in this rehumanized age. This is a really powerful statement, and I read it in front of the company when we signed it. It just reaffirms my belief that we can and we should build businesses where people come first. And when we extend our consideration as business leaders beyond the traditional realms, things like employees and customers and shareholders, to stakeholders of the larger community, really great things can happen. So we see at Etsy the broader benefit for individuals is actually built into the business model. And this goes right down to the pricing. So if you list an item on Etsy and you sell it, the Etsy portion is 3.5%. That's how we make our money. But 96.5% actually goes back to the seller. When you think about larger players like Amazon and others, when they make money, all the money goes back to the company. The Etsy business model, Etsy makes a very small cut, and all of that money, 96.5% of it, goes back to the communities from whence things were made. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. Business now has emerging frameworks like BCorp Certification that recognize that the power of business can be used to generate social good. And the way we would describe it is it's somewhat like fair trade certification, but instead of certifying a bag of coffee, you're certifying a business. The certification and assessment done by, in our case, B-Lab, which are the people behind bcorporation.net, is a really rigorous third-party independent assessment of how your business measures up in terms of values. And they test you on how you treat employees, how you treat your community, and also your performance in terms of the environment. What you see here is actually our score. And if you go to the link on the slide, bit.ly/Etsy B Corp, you can see our scorecard on the B Corporation site. When we announced that we were becoming a B Corp last year on May 9th, so it's been about a year, we actually barely made it, to be honest. Our overall score you'll see here is 80.2, and the minimum score was 80. A lot of people ask me, wow, like you guys barely passed. Like, is that actually really good? And my answer is it is really good, because what it does when you go through this assessment process, and it took us months and we had to really introspect a lot, we learned where we were deficient in a really systematic way. And because it's a points-based system, we were able to set goals for increasing our score as part of our financial planning for the year. So our goal for this year is to raise our score to 100, and 6 months into this year, we've already got enough points to be at 90. So the awareness that even getting a low score or any score at all far outweighs the score. And it's not really a competition. The way we think about it is we don't want to just be best in the world, we want to be best for the world. And this is one way to help measure that. So it's become a part of our long-term planning, and it's not a fad in the company, and it's something that we take really seriously, and we have a team working on that. We're really together, and all of you here are really part of a remarkable moment, and I think a time when we can be really optimistic about the future and about business being personal. And when I talk about business being personal, I mean devoting our energies and passion to businesses that make the world better for each other and recognize that sense of interdependence that we all know exists. It means using those technologies to connect like-minded people to make positive change in the world around us. I think it means science and technology in the service of art and in the service of humanity. And I think it means using the vast technological resources we have not to try to squeeze more out of the planet that we all live on together, but also to bring people together around a table like we did in Rockford and solve some of these problems and make things at least a little bit better. In becoming a certified B Corp and in working with this larger B Corp community, this community of companies, we're really challenging the notions of what business can mean for the world. We're saying that it's not people versus profit, it's profit because you're doing good things for people, and business can make both of those things possible. We don't really have to choose anymore. When I talk about Etsy and people ask me why is Etsy successful, why has Etsy continued to grow, our business is based 100% on the success of other people. We're living in a new world where people are able to sell things they make to anyone in the world, anywhere, and establish a relationship. They can make money in a really fulfilling environment for the first time. We're living in a world where the mayors of cities anywhere are reaching out to CEOs like me. So I'm really excited about where the world is headed, and I think we can make the world even better when we take this technology that we have and this ability that we have to connect with each other and make the world a better place. This is really the world that I want to live in and want to help create with all of you. And I really couldn't be more excited about the future that we're building in places like in London and Brooklyn, in Berlin and Brisbane and in Rockford, and really everywhere in between. So I wanted to close by saying, let's all continue to work together to make business more personal, more beautiful, and more joyful. I think we're well on our way. Thank you.